The 2026 Chevy Equinox is more than an SUV. It's your Sunday tailgate and your parking lot snack bar. Your lucky jersey, your chairs, and your big cooler fit perfectly in your even bigger cargo space. And when it's go time, your 11.3-inch diagonal touchscreen's got the playbook, the playlist, and the tech to stay a step ahead. It's more than an SUV. It's your Equinox. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
Kraft Mac and Cheese is better than 90s hip-hop. We'll remind you of your childhood without making you feel incredibly old. Kraft Mac and Cheese. Best thing ever.
I'm sorry about that. My phone was, believe it or not, too hot. So it refused to keep working. It's like this thing that said like temperature too high. I think it's because I was using the the wireless charging thing at the same time. It was obviously chugging away, doing all this processing on this. Anyway, I'm all right now.
This is the Blue Moon Podcast. Coming up, we've got all the news and views from Manchester City's week. It's your club, and this is your show.
All change at the top of the Premier League table. With 5 games to go, Manchester City have leapt up to become the leaders on goals scored. Such are the fine margins, and it's now a tight race to the finish. Wins over Arsenal and Burnley this week are what's got City into this position, but has there been a missed opportunity to boost the goal difference with the chances that were squandered at Turf Moor? We'll discuss those 2 games on today's Blue Moon podcast, plus we'll look ahead to Saturday's match with Southampton. After playing the game in hand on Wednesday to go top, City are back to Wembley for an FA Cup semi-final, while Arsenal play twice before City are back in league action, so an interesting time all around. We'll hear from Southampton fan Glen Cour from the Total Saints podcast later on, and also from the Athletics tactics writer Michael Cox, who's been focusing on Nico O'Reilly this week. I'm David Mooney, and with me this week I've got 2 City fans, starting off with Dan Burke. Hello, Dan.
Hello, David.
And Gaz is back with us. Hi, Gaz.
Hey, good first time of season.
I know, we had to squeeze you in before the end of the season, which is why I also put that game in hand chat in there in the intro, just for you, because I saw you moaning about people calling Burnley the game in hand.
Yeah, it's not exactly, and I only ever come on when we're top of the league. That's why it's
yeah, that's your that's in your it's in your rider, isn't it? Yeah. I missed the Burnley game this week because they rather last minute moved it to the night that I had tickets to the Snooker World Championship. So I just want some stories of missing games. Dan, have you missed any games for ridiculous reasons? I like ridiculous. The more ridiculous, the better.
No, nothing too ridiculous, to be honest. Last season, when we played Real Madrid in the Champions League, after Real Madrid got that late goal and City went into the second leg behind, I kind of saw my arse and bought tickets for a gig instead. I was like, "Fuck it, I'm not going to watch the second leg." And then as the week went on, as the week went on towards the game coming up, I was starting to think, I've made the wrong decision here. And I was even scoping out a bar near the gig venue for, like, if it goes to extra time, maybe I can just dive in there afterwards. So anyway, before the band had even finished their first song, I checked the score on my phone and City were already losing, so I was kind of vindicated by that decision. But I also did the opposite or sort of thing in reverse this season when we played Fulham away. I already had tickets for a gig, and then the sort of game was announced that night. I was like, I missed the game, but it's only Fulham away. It's not going to be that entertaining, really. And I'm checking the score on my phone, and when it gets to 5-1, I'm like, okay, I can stop checking the score on my phone now. I'll just enjoy the gig. So left it 20 minutes or something. Check my phone again. It's 5-4. I'm like, oh my god, and that just put me off the rest of the gig. Then I couldn't enjoy it. Couldn't focus on it. Yeah, I'm just worried that we were going to concede a 5th.
That Fulham game, I'd played football and I'd successfully done that thing of avoiding the score, which is like, it's impossible in 2026 normally to avoid the score. But I played football, didn't find out the score, got home, watched it as live, and my partner was out getting the bus home, and I was like, no, I'll come and pick you up from the bus stop, sort of thing. And I was like texting, it's like, well, it's gone to 5-1 now. This will be they'll just play it out from it. And then key in the door, walking up from the bus stop. He's like, yeah, it's 5-4. Just like anxiety all over the place. And I must admit, I started skipping through the end of the game because I just needed to know how it had gone. Gaz, any ridiculous reasons you've missed games?
I don't know about reasons. I think my best missing the game story is a game I only missed part of. I was late to the game because of train disruptions. I got to the ground 20 minutes late. But it was, and this isn't a joke, it was the game where we'd scored 5 goals against Watford in the first 18 minutes. So I was 20 minutes late for a game and managed to miss 5 goals, unbelievably. Yeah, that was
sensational. I think that has the Premier League record for the fastest 5-goal lead as well. You weren't there.
Yeah. I checked it up actually in trying to remember it because I knew you were going to ask me. And in my head, they were the only 5 goals we scored. I was so annoyed about missing them, but it turns out we actually won 8-0 that day.
Yeah, you still got 3 goals. What are you moaning about?
Yeah. We've handed out some hammerings to Watford, haven't we? I think we really have. But yeah, that was annoying.
Yeah. Right. Well, let's talk about an all-round good week then, because Gaz, City are back top of the table, as you said. You only come on when they're top. It's the narrowest of margins by goals scored only. How are you feeling about it all at the minute now?
Good. Obviously. I mean, there's a. It's completely obvious, isn't it? We're in a title race. Not only we're in a title race, we're top of the league, and properly in the groove. It's a few weeks ago. I mean, you never really. I mean, people say, "Oh, it's over now." That's whatever, but you never really truly give up, do you? Until it's completely out of the way. So I don't think I ever completely give up, but I certainly expect to be in this position now.
Never gave up. I mean. I
did. Up them, which isn't
I didn't want to correct you and just go. Oh, I think you'll find the correct grammar is gave, but there we are. I think back to 2012. I remember chucking the towel in when they lost to Arsenal, but I'd already chucked the towel in when they drew at lost at Swansea. 2014 when they lost at Anfield, the towel was well and truly in the ring from me there. I've got a habit of chucking the towel in early, so I think I'd given up on this title as well. So they're only top on goals scored, I know, but I'm glad to be back in the race. Dan, there's after the way the Arsenal game had gone. Does it feel, I mean, I don't want to be like a negative Nelly here, but does it feel like a missed opportunity with all the chances squandered at Turf Moor to have really put Arsenal under pressure? Because it is goals scored, but it could have been goal difference by quite a considerable margin.
A tiny bit, yeah, but for most of that second half, I wasn't really thinking about goal difference. I was thinking about Brighton, Chelsea, Nottingham Forest, West Ham, all these games where we've been, in front, got our noses in front, and you think, right, we'll go on and win this game now. And then they get pegged back and they drop points. So I was thinking something like that was going to happen. And the way the game went, Burnley didn't threaten City that much at all. I think even if Burnley had got a goal back at some point, City probably would have gone on to win the game. But you're just kind of thinking as the clock ticks over, it's still 1-0, we're missing all these chances. Are Burnley just going to nick a late equaliser and not leave us enough time to get a winning goal here? That was a bit of a worry. Then when the game finishes, you start thinking, oh yeah, the goal difference, I suppose that could be a bit of a problem. But yeah, I think it was just important to get that win. City have had a very strong few weeks, scored plenty of goals against good sides. Should have scored more against Burnley, no doubt about it. It is a bit of a frustration, and I am feeling good about the situation that City are in, but I just can't shake this feeling that I've had all the season, that we've all had all season, that I don't think City are that good really, comparatively to some of the teams that have won the title in recent years. You think City of 2 or 3 years ago probably would have pretty much had the title sewn up by now, and it's only because of Arsenal's foibles that we've been let back into it. It's a good position to be in now. I hope they go on to win the league, but I am kind of a little bit worried that it's not quite the finished article of a team and that they could slip up at some point in the coming weeks, and all this rallying around to get back into it will have been for nothing, but hope not.
Yeah, the week, weirdly, Gaz, kind of feels a mirror image of the Arsenal game, because I felt like the performance and the way the game went against Arsenal, they got in front and then immediately gifted that goal away, and it kind of killed the vibe a little bit, where City then had to it brought Arsenal a lot closer to where City were. City were going into the game like with the tails so far up, and Arsenal were really conservative. And then the kind of suddenness of the equaliser almost gave Arsenal a bit of a boost that City had to ride. And I'm wondering if they'd won big against Burnley, almost could have put the jitters up Arsenal a little bit. You know what I mean?
Maybe, yeah. I think I don't know. I think the sort of narrative around all this has sort of got ahead of the football, really, because a lot of the reaction to the game against Arsenal, was that we won, but the manner of the Arsenal's loss meant that they're still fighting for it and well within it. And then last night we won, but the manner of the victory means that it wasn't good enough, and we need to be sort of worried moving forward. So I don't know. I think like I know it sounds like some sort of cliche manager thing, but like the result is the important thing. Like the performance, is slightly secondary. I think like on the goal difference point, like the goal difference always just sorts itself out. I don't think I've ever known anyone to successfully go after goal difference. It just makes me think of the Christian Bull thing, really.
Yeah.
If you start doing that, and that was ridiculous. They needed like a 10-goal swing or whatever. And I always like not to sort of talk about something that happened how many seasons ago now, but like we were a bit stuck. Well, we were obviously stuck running around then, and I always remember thinking, do you know what? If they would have beaten Palace, that would have put a lot of pressure on us, because there was that Villa game, wasn't there, where we were, we huffed and puffed for about an hour or so. So no, just get the points on the board. It doesn't really matter how you do it, and nobody will really remember. And I think the way that we play, if we win the same amount of games as Arsenal do, then the goal difference should sort itself out.
Yeah, that is the other side of this, Dan. The question that I was kind of tempted to ask, like in all of this bigger picture stuff, is like we've talked about. You talked before about Nottingham Forest, about Brighton, about Chelsea. Do you feel like City have stabilised there now? In that, like in previous times when they've got themselves back into the title race, they have blown it in the next game. That was Burnley this week. Everything was set for them to blow it against Burnley, is the story of the season so far, and they didn't. They scored. They rode it out, and they rode it out quite comfortably actually in the end.
Yeah, Burnley are poor though, aren't they? I think, to be honest, like it was there was a proper golfing quality in that game, and the scoreline flattered Burnley, no doubt about it. But I think it was of the games that City have got, that's probably the easiest one on paper, I would say. And Arsenal have got to play them at home, so you think that's a pretty comfortable 3 points for Arsenal now. And yeah, it's just been a very up and down season from City, where you've not really known what you're going to get from them. They've put a string of good results together, and you think, oh, they've stabilised, they're looking good. And then they've slipped up somewhere, and the slip-ups, it seems like it's just always waiting around the next corner. You just kind of hope that they're in this kind of like battle, grind it out, not even grind it out, but just go on a run of results now where they'll win hopefully every game between now and the end of the season and get over the line. But like I said, I don't think this City team is quite as good as ones we've seen in recent years. I don't know if them necessarily going on this end of season winning run that we've seen from Guardiola's teams over the years is a given either. So yeah, I just hope they can do it. Just hope they can keep grinding these results out. But there is a part of me that's just a little bit concerned.
I think what he might be doing, he might have shown, is that this first 11 that he's repeated. I've never known him to play a team so often. It might be running its course slightly, and it might be time for a new idea. I think that it might have been a sort of canary in the coal mine in that regard.
Well, let's look at some individuals then, because Gaz, Ryan Cherky's really come into this team and really starting to kind of make his position kind of secure in that first 11, so to speak. When you watch that opening goal back against Arsenal, I still can't really believe how he's got through that gap. Like, it's like I've seen some really creative players at City in the past, and that's frankly a ridiculous run through Arsenal's defence.
I mean, it's an obvious comparison, isn't it? But like, it completely echoes the Kincladze goal, doesn't it? I mean, that's the only other time, that the most analogous goal I can remember to it. But yeah, great feat, and he came into it as a man of the moment, didn't he? And that's kind of sort of very much sort of delivered on that. I thought he was a bit huffed and puffed a bit more, didn't he, against Burnley? I think he looks a bit tired, actually. I mean, he's
that's that first 11 thing, isn't it?
Still had his moments. But you know what? The funny thing about him is, like, I remember watching him. I think it was that Tottenham game at the start of the season, thinking, "You look absolutely knackered." And he'd only played like an hour or so. I just remember. I don't know if it was that game actually, but I remember earlier in the season thinking, and you see it a lot, don't you, with players who come in from other leagues, thinking it's sink or swim in terms of your physicality. And then he had a convenient injury and sort of seems to come back. I think he'd been in the gym a bit, and he seems to come back a lot fitter now and a lot easier to get through those 90 minutes. But I don't imagine he's ever played quite as much football at quite the intensity.
Dan, when you watch him in these games, like certainly at Burnley, he was a key component of City's creativity. I thought he was a little bit quieter against Arsenal, but like when you've got somebody in the team who can create as much as he is, the goal difference thing kind of, like Gaz says, it kind of takes care of itself, doesn't it? If you know you're going to create chances, you'll start putting them away.
Yeah, I mean, it needs the other players to sort of start taking these chances. Semenyo's gone off the boil a little bit in terms of scoring goals and touching the ball with a decent first touch recently. That's getting quite frustrating to watch. Doku's not really getting into that many good goal scoring positions. Haaland has started to take a few chances in recent games and scored his goal really well here. But yeah, I think the chances that Cherki is creating need to be finished. That's the big problem. I mean, for as good as I think Cherki is and as entertaining and really enjoyable to watch, like, I think there's a big room for improvement there, and that's fair enough. He's only 21, but I'm hoping to see a lot better from him in the coming years, a bit more consistency and combining the kind of flair and the trickery with just a little bit more end product at times. He's not quite sort of Kevin De Bruyne in terms of putting the ball on the plate for his teammates at the moment. He can be a little wasteful.
He was very unlucky against Burnley when Dubravka touched it onto the bar.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's before Haaland's goal, but I think he's done everything there, and that's like how Dubravka's reached that. I don't really know.
It was an amazing save, that, actually, wasn't it? Yeah. But yeah, I think he's playing great football. He's sort of he's got the world of football kind of eating out the palm of his hand at the moment in terms of like entertainment and stuff, which probably just shows how kind of like bland and robotic a lot of footballers are these days. That this guy really stands out at the moment. But I would just like to see a little bit more from him in the future. But like I said, he's got loads of time on his side.
Gaz, I don't know if you saw this. The video emerged of him this week at Chelsea, taking a drink of water and throwing some over his head while something's going on in the background. And instead of just chucking the bottle back, he's playing that that game where that the kids play, where they throw the bottle to try and land it on its base. And then when all hell's breaking loose after the Gabriel headbutt incident, which we'll come to a bit later on, he's just doing kick-ups in the corner. He's just not fazed by it. Like he's an odd man, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, don't know what else there is to say to it, really. No, he's obviously got a very playful attitude, which comes out, and that's sort of like, it's one of those things where it's like a character trait that comes across in his football as well. You saw it with him giving, Pep the shove, didn't you, as well, the other day, which was quite funny as well. No, he seems, good character.
Yeah, well, let's stick with the Arsenal game, and I mentioned the equaliser before. Gaz, do you feel like something like that's been in the post for Donnarumma? It's almost like we've been tempting fate with it all season, and then bang, in the biggest game of the season, there it is, it happens.
Yeah, I do think he's appalling with his feet. Really, really bad. There's no two ways about it, really. I think it's really noticeable. I mean, I think there was a bit of a warning before it happened. I don't know do you remember we gave away a cheap corner? We had like 5 minutes of good pressure at the start, and then Kuznov hit it out. I mean, from where I was stood, I've not seen it replayed actually. It looked as if Donnarumma could have got on his toes, he could have got across and controlled it and kept it going, but he didn't trust his touch to run and take it under while he was sort of like running. The warning sign was there, and I think it's coming, and it is noticeable. I think you notice it obviously when Trafford plays. He's just a lot better at sort of circulating it, and obviously you just notice it because we've just got so used to Ederson through the years. Like it's not really the expecting him to sort of be able to play sort of killer passes or whatever. It's just you
expect him not to get caught in possession, though, don't you? That's the thing. The
thing that frustrates me with him is when the ball gets played back to him. It's always like, I don't think his distribution is actually that bad in terms of it'll find someone, but it's just a touch, stand on it, get your head up, look round, play it. And like by the time that's happened, the options aren't as good as as if you would have just played it first time. And we see that a bit with Trafford, and we definitely saw that with Ederson all the time, whereby he was so comfortable he could play the pass very quickly and we could circulate it so quickly. So that was coming. Legally, sort of obliged out to say that he sort of did, to an extent, redeem himself in the second half with a couple of good saves. And it was some of his good distribution that the second goal came from as well, to be fair. One thing I will say about him, though, because I feel like I've done a bit of a sort of drive by on him, it's like, I love him as a person. He is absolutely, there's the scene you're talking about, like Cherky's character before, like Donnarumma's reaction into the game. It was so genuine and so nice. Like that's, I'll forgive anything, for that type of attitude from players.
God, all the player has to do is dive into the stands,
yeah,
and they've got your heart, yeah.
Yeah, but just in a really genuine way. You saw it in his debut in the derby. You saw he was sort of like, and you can tell when like someone recognises the sense of occasion and sort of recognises what it is to be a football fan. Some players just don't have it, and you could just definitely see it. Like, he's always interacting with the fans in a really genuine way, and everyone who works with him says that his character is fantastic as well. Aside from that, and like there's definite value to having that if you have sort of shortcomings in other areas.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dan, when the ball went into the net from that error. It was the most Italian reaction I've ever seen. like he dropped down to his knees, covered his face with both hands. It was such an Italian reaction.
And he said, "Mamma mia."
Yeah, it'd be something like that. And then when he's coming out for the second half, he apologised to the fans in the South Stand. Was just like, "Yeah, I know. Look, I fucked up. I know it. Like, I'm very sorry about that sort of thing." And as Gaz says, made a few good saves in the second half that probably, I don't know, balance it out or not. City won the game, so you can kind of forgive it.
Yeah, I mean, he's made incredible saves all season that have probably won City a few points or spared them embarrassing results, like in the derby at Old Trafford. He was unreal that day and really kept the score down. I was like broadly in favour of the signing when he came. I thought he'd bring in the kind of like business end of the season or like Champions League knockouts, he'd bring that bit of personality, that bit of experience that perhaps City had been lacking in that department from Ederson. Ederson was a great goalkeeper, especially with the ball at his feet, but often, didn't make the saves when City really needed him to. So I thought, all right, we'll sacrifice a goalkeeper not being, amazing with his feet for this kind of match-winning saves. In recent times, I've been one of the people who's come round to the idea of, maybe we do actually play better when Trafford is in goal. I think it's only the fact that Nico O'Reilly's there at left back to take the ball under pressure and just kind of wriggle out of any situation he gets put in that probably means that City haven't had more hairy situations like that over the course of the season. But I think Donnarumma is still a top-class goalkeeper. He's a great leader in the dressing room. And yeah, like Gaz said, the thing with him jumping in the crowd at the end, it's just like pure passion as well as relief, I think, and it's great for fans to have someone on the pitch who feels as passionately about it as they do. Also, the unconfirmed, but I'm choosing to believe them, reports of him sticking his middle finger up at Arsenal fans on the way out of the ground afterwards.
That was me. That was me. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Makes sense now. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I do love a good swear at an opposing fan on by a player. It's good fun.
You don't wash your jersey during a win streak. You don't switch seats when your team's up big. And you definitely don't shave during the playoffs. When things are working, you don't change them. That's why when you drink Jägermeister, you drink it ice cold. Anything else? Well, that'd just be bad luck. Drink it cold or don't drink it at all. Jägermeister. Damn, that's cold. Drink responsibly. Jägermeister liqueur, 35% alcohol by volume. Imported by Mast Jägermeister, U.S. White Plains, New York.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
You see stats pop up all the time about clubs and players, and you want to know that exact thing about City. There's an answer. Statscity.co.uk. Want to find out all of the players who played alongside club legends like David Silva, Sergio Aguero or Vincent Kompany? Or maybe you'd like to know which team found it hardest to score past Joe Hart. You can find out City's record in every competition, at every stadium, and under every manager. Just go to statscity.co.uk and browse away. That's statscity.co.uk.
You can listen to the show ad-free by joining our Patreon, patreon.com/Blue Moon Podcast.
Gaz, I promised myself that I would never spend too long on podcasts talking about the officials and the officiating, but I kind of feel like the need to have a look at the Arsenal game with this, because is there a problem with letting the level of physicality that was going on between Gabriel and Haaland? Is there a problem with letting that go? Because when you do let it go and keep letting it go, it builds to what we got in the end, where Gabriel probably should have been sent off.
Yeah, but the answer to that is just to send him off, isn't it? Like, I think. No, it was fine. I was enjoying it. It was really good, particularly in the stadium, because, like, you were seeing it carry on for ages after, after the ball had gone. The two of them at it. No, I mean, I don't think until the incident. I mean, there was nothing, that bad about it, really. Fine, and it genuinely was up until that point. And you could sort of repeatedly see Taylor make the point, like, you're both at it, and so that's that basically. I don't mind it; it's fun to watch. Yeah, it's all right.
All I think of, though, Dan, is that Liverpool game in 2022 where it was Haaland was being physically kind of bundled around like that, and he was doing it back, and the referee was letting it go. And then, because he didn't specifically see one shirt pull when Haaland scored, the VAR got involved and brought that back and was like, well, that is a shirt pull. It is a foul against the laws of the game. But the way it's been refereed up to this point, like, it's not in keeping with the level of physicality that's there already. And I just wonder if that, like, if we need to be a bit more flexible with if you're going to let this happen, then you kind of have to let it happen, don't you? And when Haaland scored, actually, they were all over each other then, and that was very much a case of, like, this is 50-50, you're both at it, so play on.
Yeah. Even then, though, it was Gabriel who initiated the shirt pulling, wasn't it, really? And I think a lot of these, like, battles, as fun and kind of fascinating as they are to watch, like, how much of it is Haaland fouling and how much of it is him being fouled? I would say it's about 80-20 in favour of him being fouled, a lot of the time. It just seems that he's getting his shirt pulled, dragged all over the place. Like, the situation with the quote-unquote headbutt, like, I would sort of like to live in a world where that's not a red card, really, where it is just two players just being a bit sort of too macho, putting their heads together. One of them kind of like, pushes the other one with his head. It's not a headbutt, really, But how many times have you seen people being sent off for that? And, at the time I thought it was going to be a red card. I thought it was going to get VAR'd and he was going to be off. So that was surprising. I don't think you can really kind of justify it in, by the letter of the law and the kind of level of consistency that you see with those decisions. But yeah, it gets to a point with this, all this sort of like shirt pulling and stuff like that, where you think the referee actually has got to step in and kind of try and control this a little bit better, I think.
Well, I can tell you the VAR couldn't advise a red card because Anthony Taylor had seen it and basically he'd said he didn't feel it met the threshold for a red card. And the whole high bar not wanting to re-referee it, the VAR couldn't say, well, actually, literally every other incident of this happening in the last 30 years has been a red card, so you should give it. It just kind of has to stand as it was.
Justice for Samir Nasri.
I'd forgotten about that. Well, Norwich, yeah.
Yeah.
The one it made me think of, and it's funny, is like Rodri did it to Gibbs White, didn't he, when he was at Wolves? And it was one of those where it's like, yeah, you're watching thinking, oh, it's just a big load of nothing, but at the same time watching it thinking he has to be sent off because everyone always gets sent off for doing that. So it was. I remember thinking that at the time. So yeah, it was a terrible decision, and like you say, for sort of consistency purposes. Also, like, I suppose it isn't very nice having someone rub the head in yours, even if it, it's not going to leave any sort of lasting damage. If talking about narratives at the start, if they would have lost him for 3 matches, that would have been, very serious for them.
And there's loads of people have said, like, if Haaland goes down, it's definitely a red card, isn't it? That decision that would influence the decision completely.
Shouldn't be that, though, should it? Because obviously the impact on Haaland's head has not been enough to send him down. Because his reaction was just like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you getting yourself sent off? Oh, you're not." I did enjoy that Guardiola has kept the receipts from 10 years ago with Nolito.
Nolito, yeah.
That was that was mad. But I'd love to know what else is in his little black book of decisions that he's still not let go. I want to talk about Nico O'Reilly, but before we do, let's hear from Michael Cox. The Arsenal game specifically highlighted how Guardiola's been using O'Reilly, but he's been doing interesting things from left back since he came into the team last year. I've been speaking to the Athletic's tactics writer Michael Cox about Guardiola, O'Reilly, and the left backs.
I thought he was excellent. I thought he was the key player, actually. Not necessarily the best player, because I think the midfielders were excellent, but I think a lot of City's good moves came from Arsenal not really being able to work out where Nico O'Reilly was. And I know it's not a new thing for Guardiola to play someone who's kind of half fullback and half central midfielder. But I think almost everyone else who's done it for City, they felt a little bit like one thing or the other, if that makes sense. They've either looked like a fullback playing in midfield or a midfielder playing at fullback. And I think O'Reilly showed at the weekend that he's so suited to all those situations. And there was a couple of examples of Arsenal just not being able to or not being sure how to press him. At some points they had Zubimendi, who was the holding midfielder, going out to him. And it's like, well, this is the left back. You don't want your holding midfielder going out to the left back, really. And of course, the winning goal, I think, all started really from Arsenal's slight confusion about whether Martinelli, who came on down the right, was meant to be pressing Guehi or was meant to be pressing O'Reilly. And he went for Guehi. O'Reilly was free, and that's pretty much where the winning goal came from. So, yeah, this has been a thing that Guardiola's used for a long time, but given the status of this game, the biggest Premier League game for many years, I think it's probably the best example of it working, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say the left back, especially with City and Guardiola, has been an area where he's kind of tinkered with. We saw how Cancelo was moving around. He put Zinchenko there and had him operating higher up. What do you feel is different about O'Reilly? What makes this kind of a much more individual case for what O'Reilly can bring to the team?
Well, I think there's two players who've come through who have almost been bred to play that role. The other one was Rico Lewis, and Guardiola was, he's kind of shifted between players like this, and then obviously had that period where he was playing centre-backs at full-back quite a lot. I think it's clear that Rico Lewis doesn't have the physical capabilities that O'Reilly does. And so I think basically O'Reilly has solved that problem, if you like. He's comfortable moving on the ball in central positions, but he doesn't have that weakness maybe in one-on-one situations, and particularly in the air. And in fact, he's the complete opposite. He's really good in the air. He's got the physical profile of a centre-back, and we've seen a few times, including his Arsenal in the Cup final, that his aerial prowess is actually a massive asset for City. So, I thought of Lewis as almost a hybrid between a fullback and a midfielder, and I now think of O'Reilly as a hybrid between the Lewis type of player and the centre-back, fullback type of player. So he's just a really good footballer, and I think he's obviously a young player, and there was times last season, including in the Cup final against Palace, where he did switch off at times. I think Munoz is a difficult wing-back to track, but that did cost City that day. But I think you have to accept that from young players, and I think with a year's worth of experience, I think he's really improved in that respect. And I think probably now will be England's left-back at the World Cup as well. It's kind of slim pickings in that position. It's probably him or Lewis Hall. And obviously in the recent game between the two, it was Man City 1, Newcastle 2, and O'Reilly 2 and Lewis Hall 1 in terms of getting the goals. So he's come on leaps and bounds. He was always an impressive player when you first saw him, but I think he's obviously improved a lot over the last year as well.
Yeah, and it's not just the defensive side, because it feels like he obviously came through the academy as a more forward player in the midfield areas, so you'd expect him to be comfortable on the ball. But when you watch him link up, especially with Jeremy Doku against Arsenal at the weekend, it almost adds an air of unpredictability in that you don't know whether O'Reilly will go around the outside or through the inside. And I don't know, does that make City more dynamic, more unpredictable?
Yeah, I think so. And of course, I always have to check myself in situations like this, because, had the result been different, then maybe we start saying, overthinking and that kind of thing. But I think probably for me, tactically, the biggest difference between City and Arsenal at the moment is Arsenal, when you see the 11, you don't know who they're always going to play, but once you see the 11 on the team sheet, you know how they're going to look. There's never any players popping up in unfamiliar positions. And I think City had that mainly with O'Reilly, but also not just in this game, but in other games. with Bernardo Silva. I mean, you don't know whether he's going to play on top of the centre-backs or whether he's going to be between the lines, or sometimes he drifts to the flank. I thought that game against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge was quite a good example of first half he was really deep and City retained the ball really well, didn't offer that much penetration. Second half he ventured higher and suddenly there's combinations and they're cutting through the lines. So yeah, just having a couple of versatile players. I don't think Arsenal really have it in that way. I think Arsenal... There were a couple of surprises on the team sheet. Or not surprises, but obviously they played Havertz rather than Gyökeres, which was a choice. They played Eze rather than Martinelli on the left, which was a choice. But you knew how it was going to look on the pitch. And to be fair, Arsenal didn't play badly. I think it was the best Arsenal played for probably 3 or 4 months, considering the standard of opposition. But yeah, I think City do have that unpredictability. And I do think that was a really key factor in the end. It came down to small margins. I mean, Arsenal could have gone 2-1 up in that game easily, but I did think City played better football. I thought they passed the ball through the lines better, and overall, if a team was going to win it, I think City probably were the deserving winners.
Now, you mentioned Bernardo Silva there. I've seen a few City fans suggest that the potential replacement for Bernardo Silva once he leaves at the end of the season is already within the squad, and it is Nico O'Reilly. What would you make to that? Because obviously it would involve moving him out of the left-back position, and then Guardiola has, well, assuming Guardiola's still here next season, he's got the left-back then to sort out again if O'Reilly isn't there. But like, can there be a situation where Aït-Nouri comes in and O'Reilly steps back into midfield?
I mean, it seems conceivable. I mean, when people were talking about the left-back discussion for England kind of 5 or 6 weeks ago, it was, well, O'Reilly's playing in midfield at the moment. And in that game against Newcastle was in midfield and drove forward really well and scored a couple of goals. So I think it's conceivable. I mean, I think sometimes it's almost like the debate about Trent Alexander-Arnold at Liverpool for a few years. Like, he's so good on the ball, should use him in midfield. I think the thing with Alexander-Arnold was that his skill set became quite suited to playing out wide because he was such a good crosser. And I mean, O'Reilly can cross the ball. I don't think of that as particularly one of his main features of his game. So yeah, potentially that's a solution in midfield. And I think Aït-Nouri's done pretty well when he's had a decent run of games as well. He's clearly a really good technical player. So I wouldn't be surprised. But it's so difficult to guess with Guardiola. I mean, his thinking in the fullback positions alone has evolved so much over the last 3 or 4 years. It feels like there's been 3 or 4 different eras during that time. But yeah, he's certainly got the capabilities to play in there.
Yeah, I must admit, he stresses me out a few times when he seems quite cool and calm in his own box when he receives the ball to feet. I mean, the moment you picked out in your piece where he dribbled it down the line and beat 3 players and then brought it back inside, that happened right in front of me in the Etihad, and I think the man next to me turned a strange colour of purple. So it was he has the mentality as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, that was great. I mean, I had to watch that back on slow motion to actually work out what he'd done, how he had evaded 2 tackles. But I thought that was a great moment because for me, almost the whole game was how are Arsenal going to actually, which player's going to be on O'Reilly. That was a situation where they got 2 backing him almost into the corner and he still got away with the ball and then I think beat Declan Rice as well. It was a proper fantastic piece of skill. And I was lucky enough to be there as well. And I think sometimes when you're in the stadium and something like that happens and there's a bit of a cheer, you do realise the impact it has probably on the team, on making them feel comfortable and reminding them they're at home. Just the confidence on the ball of players in that situation. Obviously, that's such a big part of football these days. So yeah, and to be fair, I thought there were so many little things, but that's probably the fact that we're talking about that, I actually thought it was a really good game. Like, it's not been a great Premier League season in terms of the quality of football. I think it's been pretty bad, particularly amongst the teams who are in the Champions League places. And I wasn't expecting much from this game. I thought it would be quite a few goals. I thought Arsenal would play for a draw. I thought it might come down to set pieces. But actually, Arsenal went there trying to win, could have won it. I thought they played pretty well, and I think City produced a really good performance as well. And it's nice that we're talking about all the things in open play and the movements and the positioning and the skill of players like O'Reilly and Bernardo Silva, because to be honest, that's not what we've been talking about for much of this season. So I found the whole game quite refreshing, really. I mean, if the Premier League is to be essentially decided by that game, I thought it was quite a good or quite a fitting way for it to be decided, really. Obviously, still a few games to go, but yeah, that was such a big game, obviously.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You know those friends who support your preference for podcasts over music on road trips? That's the energy State Farm brings to insurance. With over 19,000 local agents, they help you find the coverage that fits your needs, so you can spend less time worrying about insurance and more time enjoying the ride. Download the State Farm app or go online at statefarm.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love, with no artificial sweeteners and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
You tell yourself, no one wants your college-era band tees. But on Depop, people are searching for exactly what you've got. You once paid a small fortune for them at merch stands. Now, a teenager who calls them vintage will offer that same small fortune back. Sell them easily on Depop. Just snap a few photos and we'll take care of the rest. Who knew your questionable music taste would be a money-making machine? Your style can make you cash. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
If you enjoy the show, please give it a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts.
That was Michael Cox. Danny, O'Reilly's had an excellent few weeks on top of an excellent season, hasn't he? That's ultimately one of the driving forces between this City's run for this City's run of consistency.
Yeah, he's absolutely outstanding. Like, for what he's doing at his age, and like I mentioned earlier, the way he just takes the ball under pressure, the way he sort of wriggled through that challenge on the touchline at the weekend was, you know, I've not really seen a player like him, really. A player of his kind of size, strength, but quality with the ball at his feet, his ability to get around the pitch, his ability to get into the box and get on the end of chances. Incredible. And I don't think he's as effective when he plays, or he wasn't as effective against Burnley in midweek when he played in the middle. I can see why Guardiola did that. I can see that he perhaps wants to get Aït-Nouri in the team a little bit every now and again, but I don't think Aït-Nouri has really been that brilliant in his first season at City. I've not seen an awful lot from him to sort of make me think that he deserves to be playing that much, and I think O'Reilly's got that left-hand side when Rodri's fit, or, you know, if Nico Gonzalez comes back in, he's got that left back position nailed down pretty much, because yeah, he's a fantastic player. And, you know, if you would have said at the start of the season, he wasn't, you know, getting much in the team, was he really? He was coming off the bench maybe and playing in midfield every now and again. But to say that he's played as much football as he has, that he's probably going to looking at being England's starting left back at the World Cup, I would imagine now, the way he's played and has chipped in with the amount of goals that he has in important moments. Yeah, it's been unbelievable, and I think we're so lucky to have him.
Does it say more about O'Reilly, Gaz, that Guardiola wanted to get him into the centre of midfield for Burnley, or does it say that he just doesn't really trust Gonzalez? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I don't know actually. I think he probably should have just played Gonzalez, because he's not sort of let us down. I think the thing, and I quite like Aït-Nouri as well, to be honest. I think he's been fine. I think the thing about O'Reilly is, like, you get so much O'Reilly for your money at left back.
Yeah.
There's no point in playing him in midfield, because that's where he ends up playing all the game anyway. You might as well pick somebody else in there who can do it. You know, and then you get another midfielder as well. You know, if he's sort of like notionally starting the game in central midfielder at left back, he's just going to be occupying the same positions most of the game anyway, particularly against Burnley when we've got all the ball, isn't he? So you might as well play him at left back and treat yourself to another midfielder.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what Guardiola does this weekend as City head to Wembley for their 23rd trip there under Guardiola. 25 if we include the two when it was Spurs' home stadium. 2015, by the way, was the last calendar year that had no City Wembley trip in it. So it's been a busy old set of years for some journeys down south. Be interested to see what Guardiola does with him there. Gaz, Southampton was probably the easiest draw City could have had, but in a weird way, now you look at the other teams in the competition left, and you kind of wonder, actually, maybe Leeds or Chelsea might have been the easier draw. I don't know.
Leeds are looking all right at the moment, aren't they? Chelsea not. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty agnostic, really. We should I think maybe what it does, and not, with all due respect, etc. But like, I think the advantage of having a championship team is that we probably will be a bit more emboldened to, try a few.
Go.
Well, or just try a few more different players. Really, I think actually, it's a what that Southampton game is on a weekend is it's a really good audition for the first team. Like when the obvious one's Foden, I think he looks a lot better coming off last few games, and I think the two spots which somebody could come into the game he could come into the side, or either Doku or Semenyo. So if he can play well against Southampton, I mean, do like a real sort of statement performance, then maybe he can sort of come in and be a genuine other option in the first 11 in the way that he hasn't been, in his poor form since Christmas. Maybe as well Gonzalez. I get the feeling that we can't really bank on Rodri being fit, but if he can come in and look competent, then maybe that makes up Pep's mind in terms of what you do when he's not there.
Yeah. Just a bit more on Southampton, Dan. 3 points off the second automatic promotion place in the Championship. They have played a game more than Ipswich, who were second, but they play Ipswich on Tuesday, so they've got an opportunity. They're in a race like City playing Arsenal. That's quite handy for City to have. And Southampton also unbeaten since January, 15 wins and 5 draws. They've got a bit of momentum. It's not necessarily going to be a pushover, this.
Yeah, I think I watched them against Arsenal. I thought they played some really, really good football. Like, it wasn't just a sort of smash and grab win. They properly played Arsenal off the park that night. So I think they'll fancy it against City. I think it's a good opportunity for them. Rare trip to Wembley for them. They'll relish the occasion. They'll want to give a good account of themselves. I don't think they'll be thinking too much about the Ipswich game next. I think they'll just go for it in this game and put the best team out and try the best and hope that they can, learn something from playing against City that they can perhaps take into the promotion run in the last few games. They've got a few ex-City players in the team, Harwood Bellis, Shea Charles, I think Sam Edozie is there as well, that used to play for City. So they'll want to have a go at City and try and prove their old club wrong. And yeah, I think it could be a tricky game that City would be wise not to take for granted.
I mean, Gaz is talking about it being a potential audition. Is there a danger then with the form that Southampton are in, the fact that they're flying high in the Championship? If City do rotate too much, it ends up like one of those disjointed City performances against a team that is put out their full strength team, and it's doesn't necessarily go as easily as we might expect it to.
Yeah, I mean, Leverkusen this season's kind of the obvious comparison, I suppose, isn't it? Where he made wholesale changes, 10 changes or something, and it was they looked like they'd never met each other before. But that said, this is an opportunity for some players who've been out of the team recently to get some minutes. I think Pep will use that opportunity. I could see, maybe Stones and Ake both coming in, Foden, as Gaz mentioned, Marmoush. If he's got any kind of future at the club, maybe this is like a chance for him to kind of show what he can do. Reinders, who's not played for a while as well, you think he would possibly come back in. And yeah, I think Nico Gonzalez will start this game, having not started against Burnley. But yeah, they've got to be careful about mixing things up too much and also kind of disrupting the rhythm. Like you said, if a lot of the current kind of like first 11 are rested for this game, and then there's such a gap between that and the Everton game, those players could lose a bit of rhythm, a bit of form. So it's a difficult balancing act that I hope Pep gets right this weekend. Yeah.
So I mean, just looking at that, Gaz, how much rotation would you be comfortable with this weekend? Because if, as Dan says, Marmoush, Reinders, Foden, Savinho, if all of these players come in. And it kind of...
I don't recall saying Savinho.
Yeah, I know you didn't say Savinho. I threw that one in there. But he is an option to come in. Like, if all these players do come in, and it is a bit Leverkusen-y, like, does that... Like, the fact that there's 9 days between this game and the Everton game, it kind of feels like you can go a little bit stronger than that and kind of keep the rhythm of that they've built up over the last few weeks.
Maybe, yeah. So possibly you make the changes are outside of the spine of the team, where you can sort of afford to do that a bit. Trying to think though, I mean, you'd probably I was about to say all the changes I'd make, and then now effectively just changing the entire team. So I don't know. I mean, again, like, you know, the Leverkusen thing, it was, yeah. I mean, there's a precedent for that, but it's just one game. There's nothing to say we couldn't. And we've done it before, haven't we? I mean, like, I'm thinking back to, didn't Rico Lewis score when was the last time we saw him? You know, so that goes to show you that the type of players we got through a semi-final last time with. So, you know, I don't think it always has to be Leverkusen when we completely ring the changes.
Did they ring the changes for Sheffield United in the treble season? I know it's a different team, it's the treble team, but like I seem to recall that because that was the championship team in the draw, they basically went, right, we'll swap everybody.
Well, that was the Riyad Mahrez game, that wasn't
Yeah.
it? And he famously sort of struggled for minutes that season. So I think as well, is it a bit different as well at this point in the season where it's like, you know, all right, fair enough, there's going to be a lot of changes, but like you'd be bringing in players who have played a lot of football, you know, up to this point. So maybe that mitigates it to an extent. I'd expect to see Foden. I'd expect to see Gonzalez. Savinho, he, is really intent on making happen, isn't he? So, although I can actually see the uses of Savinho. To be fair to him, a lot of people are very down on him, but I can sort of understand. Whenever he brings him on, I can sort of understand why he's done it. You know, even if it's not quite worked.
He was great as the draft excluder behind the wall the other week. I thought that was his best position.
He's quite good at running the ball, isn't he? And you know, when you say sort of take a bit of pressure off. So yeah, maybe he'll get a look in.
Guardiola always says he likes his when he gives it away, he likes that he runs back, and I'm like, well, can he just stop giving it away? Is that not the answer here?
Yeah. I mean, the interesting ones, like Lewis is in. Like, when was last time we saw him? He is like the real sort of mystery. Would you see him again this year?
I think he's injured at the moment.
Oh, is he? Oh,
yeah.
Right, fair enough. Reinders is completely out of favour, isn't he? Do you remember when everyone thought he was like after the first game of the season? Everyone thought he was like basically the second best midfielder in the league after Rodri, and then unbelievable fall from grace. So yeah, maybe. And is Diaz fit? Maybe he'll come in.
Yeah, but Diaz is on the verge, isn't he? I think we'll find out in the press conference. Dan, how would you feel if he went, all right, I know Haaland's found form, but you know he's coming out for this game, resting him up, and then Marmoush is coming in?
I mean, I don't like Marmoush very much. I don't rate him at all, and particularly not as a central striker. But I wouldn't kind of be against that, weirdly, or I could kind of see the logic behind it that, all right, give Marmoush a start, see if you can do something, be a bit lively at Wembley. Don't let him take a penalty again, for God's sake, after the FA Cup final last season. But yeah, I wouldn't be against Haaland just getting a little bit of a rest, even if it was for the first hour of the game or something, and then just put him on if we're struggling a little bit.
Marmoush, to me, just has the same problem that Alvarez had, is that at the end of the day, he's a centre forward, and we've got one of them. And that's that, really. I mean, like, I think even with Alvarez, I think there's been a bit of like retconning of what he was like when he was there. Like, I can remember lots of games and he was in a very Marmoushy way, sort of put out wide and not, put in the team because he could score a goal, but at the same time the whole thing not really quite, working because you didn't really have a square peg and a square hole there. There was that Anfield game, wasn't there, where he was really bad? I remember
left
that
wing.
One. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I loved him. I think he was brilliant, but his best performances always came when Haaland wasn't playing.
Yeah.
It was that great shot, by the way, of Pep going and sitting on the bench against Burnley, being really frustrated, sitting among the subs and like gesticulating to like Marmoush, and Marmoush is just looking at him like, well, put me on the pitch then if it's that bad. Like,
well, I was going to say this.
It's not that bad.
It's a bit weird, isn't it, that he's basically gone and sat with all the players who can't get in the team to moan about the ones who can. Like, it's just a bit odd. Like, you'd think he'd do it with the coaching staff, but no. Foden, Dan, Gaz mentioned him. This feels like it feels like he needs to grasp an opportunity at the minute, and obviously Guardiola's been very. He's talked, like, Foden himself has talked openly about his mental health and about how he's been struggling, and Guardiola's been very keen to stress that City will give him time. But it's
they won't give him a contract though.
well, this is it. His contract is running out, and they're in this situation where like they kind of just want to see like he's still there. He's still got it.
Yeah, and it's concerning because earlier in the season it looked like he'd kind of overcome the problems that he was struggling with, and he was playing well, he was scoring goals, and then he's had a relapse somehow, and he looks a shadow of himself again now. And I thought his cameo against Arsenal was fairly kind of suggestive that he's not completely finished yet. He came on, and the sort of calmness he had to pass the ball back to Donnarumma at the end and stuff was a bit like, okay, yeah, I was having kittens, but he seemed pretty chill. But then he didn't even get off the bench against Burnley, which is a bit of a concern. But maybe Pep just thinks, I'll start him on the weekend and give him a full 90 and see what he can do. Because yeah, I'd love nothing more than to see him find some form towards the end of the season.
I thought when he came on against Chelsea, he looked really good. Like, he got 20 minutes and he got the proverbial kicks out of him as well, and he looked like he was back to his best. Well, not back to his best, far from that, but you know what I mean. He looked like he was maybe with Foden, I was just sort of like, maybe out of hope rather than expectation, but hopefully he can turn it around. The contract thing's a bit weird, isn't it? You would have thought like the club would buy the dip a bit on that, if in terms of giving him one, or maybe it's him holding out and thinking, no, if I can become Phil Foden again, I can probably get much better terms.
Surely for him, he's got to be looking at the World Cup now and thinking he's probably not going. I don't know, but if he's got any chance of going, he's got to find some form in these last few games.
Even Tuchel's in the give him every chance camp, isn't he? He played him in both those friendlies and it didn't quite work. I still think if he can, this has to be his game on Saturday, and if he can do that and get back in the team, I think he can probably just about get back in, because the players he's competing with aren't. Bellingham's looked like he's coming back into form, doesn't it? But and there's no doubt about him going, to be fair. But who else is competing for his position? Palmer. He's even worse at the moment, if anything. So you'd kind of hope.
Yeah, John Stones, Dan. He's been the last two
don't think
appearances.
He'll play number 10 for England.
Well, no, I don't think he'll play number 10 for England, but he might play centre back for City on Saturday. His last two appearances for City were in the FA Cup, and it's not officially been announced, but he is leaving at the end of the season. He's out of contract.
Yeah, it'd be sad to see him go, but it's I think the writing's been on the wall for a while with him, really, hasn't it, with the injury situation, unfortunately. He was particularly good against Newcastle in the Cup a couple of rounds ago, wasn't he? So I would definitely start him at the weekend, yeah.
We've got a bit of a problem with centre-halves, really. I mean, because, it's almost in a way Guardiola being injured has done us a favour, because I don't know what we do when he comes back. I wonder if we'd look at offers for Diaz, you see, because his Rice as well, who's supposed to, apparently has had this fantastic season in Girona as well. It just seems like you'd imagine Stones will go. Aki's still getting games that you'd imagine he'll go. I think there's a surfeit of players there, really. Particularly Kusanov, really established himself.
Yeah, we haven't. I was going to say we've not even touched on Kusanov's performance in the last two games when he's been really good.
Introducing Home Care Plus, a new subscription service from Lowe's that helps make life easier by giving members a hand with home maintenance. Let Lowe's tackle the tasks you keep meaning to do, like electric dryer vent cleaning, replacing hard-to-reach light bulbs, and more. Subscribe to Home Care Plus for just $99 a year and consider your to-do list done. Members get more at Lowe's. Available in select zip codes only. Cancel anytime. Non-refundable fee. Product purchase required. Terms and service restrictions apply. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Ad-free episodes are available on Patreon. Sign up at patreon.com/Blue Moon Podcast.
Let's get a view from St Mary's. I've been speaking to Glen de la Cour from the podcast Total Saints to find out how things are going. We were speaking here before both clubs played their midweek games.
They're going very well at the moment, as I'm sure you know, with regards to how we've picked up. I mean, going back to that last time we spoke, we had the it's pretty embarrassing actually the way we celebrated getting the point at St Mary's against Man City, which basically meant we weren't the worst Premier League team of all time. So fond memories of what was an absolutely dismal season, which ended in us going down. I mean, this season as a whole has been. It's been a roller coaster as usual. That's a horrible cliche, but it's true. We appointed Will Steele at the start of the season, and most people were going, oh, that's a progressive appointment. That's a good appointment. Well done. And for whatever reason, it just didn't work at all. I don't think the players were having him from the moment he walked in the door, to be honest. And that lasted about 12 games, I think. He was awful. Team was awful. We were 21st in the Championship, and if anything, it was looking like we were going to struggle to avoid doing what Leicester have turned out to be doing and dropping straight into League One. But at the same time that we appointed Will Steele, we appointed Ton de Reckert to manage the under-21s. Again, another youngster. He's only 32 at the time, I think, and he managed the under-21s, and he obviously did enough in that little stint to for the board to say, well, okay, well you have the interim job whilst we search for a new manager. So he took the interim job and he won his first 4 games. So the board I'm sure the board would, at one level, have not wanted to appoint another inexperienced, very young manager. But when you win 4 games out of 4, it's kind of a little bit intoxicating, and you take him on. So we end up with this new guy no one's heard of. We've won a few games. We then immediately lose one, win a couple more, so it gets a little bit shaky. And then he goes on a run of 7 games without winning. And there was some pretty poor defeats up in that. We got belted 4-0 at Middlesbrough, amongst other defeats. And I seriously reckon Eckert was probably 2 games from getting the sack, because we had a very dismal home defeat against Preston, and the fans were starting to chant against the board again. And when that happens, usually the only way they react is getting rid of the manager. And that's what they did with Will Steele, basically. And it looked like he was going the same way, but suddenly he seemed to grow a pair, and there was a bit of a tactical shift. We won a very dodgy, not dodgy, but a very boring home game against Sheffield United, 1-0. And that was the start of the 19 games unbeaten that we are still on. So
I was going to say this because, like, coming into an FA Cup semi-final, I mean, there's confidence blowing around the place at the minute, because you are within touching distance of second place in the table, unbeaten since January. Like, there's a lot of good things. There's a lot of things to feel good about at Southampton at the minute.
There are a lot of things to feel good about. He's got sort of members of the squad who were really bit part players, not really doing very much. Suddenly, everyone's, you know what it's like when things start going well, everyone seems to improve their attitude a little bit, and everyone seems keener to make an impact when they maybe get 10 minutes as a sub at the end of the game and things like that. So in the Championship, what's been happening is we've been playing a game every 3 days because of the FA Cup run, basically, and because of ridiculous scheduling. They basically scheduled the Championship assuming that no club in the Championship would get into the later stages of the FA Cup. So when we played Arsenal in the last round, we basically had to postpone 2 fixtures. So that's kind of rolled on into and impacted April massively. So we're playing every 3 or 4 days. It's a bit like being a Champions League club, I guess. But,
without the resources, though, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, but in the Championship, we have got the resources. We've got, I wouldn't say 2 starting lineups, but we can make 5 or 6 changes from Wednesday to Saturday, and still be as strong. And that's what Ton de Reckert has managed superbly over the last few weeks. But the main thing going into this game, the confidence that we've got. Obviously, you've got the league run, but we've played Fulham, we've played Arsenal. I know everyone beats Arsenal at the moment, but we started it. So obviously, we went to Fulham away from home. That was a really good game. We won 1-0 in the last minute, and then we played Arsenal at home, which I think everybody saw. It was on the BBC, and we won that one as well. And Arsenal rested a few that game, but that's. Don't take anything away from us. We play well. We deserve to win that game. So there is some confidence there, and up to this point, everything's been put in front of us in the last 3 months. Be it lots of fixtures, all 3 days apart, or Premier League sides in the FA Cup. We've managed to achieve what we wanted to achieve. But whether that, I have a feeling Saturday will be. I'm not blowing smoke here. I mean, City are a completely different level just some of the things some of the individual players do. It's like a different sport.
Well, I was going to ask about this, because obviously knocking Arsenal out in the last round is huge. But obviously, like, is the difference with this game, like, City aren't coming to St Mary's? It's at Wembley. Is that a key point?
I think it is. I mean, I did see somewhere Pep Guardiola's record at Wembley. It's ridiculous, isn't it? I don't know what it is, 26 games or something.
Yeah, he tends to win.
Yeah, it tends to win. So it could be a kind of horrible day where we're basically chasing you guys around Wembley for 90 minutes and going home with our tails between our legs. But I think, I'm confident that Tonderecker will come up with something. I think we will have moments in the game, and it's just how it plays. I mean, we could equally get beat 4-0. But as far as, I mean, I'd rather that didn't happen, because I'm going to the game, and so far 33,000, I think we've sold all the tickets that we've been allocated. So, it's a big day. As a fan base, we tend to do big games pretty well, because we don't have that many of them. So in terms of Wembley games and sort of like massive playoff games and things like that. So it's it's a game we're all looking forward to. We are aware that on the pitch it could go horribly wrong, but if we can by some miracle get something out of the game, and then it would be one of the great days for us. But I think we've just got to approach the game. I always think when you play against City, as a club like Saints, you look at it in sort of 10-minute blocks. If you can get to 10 minutes and you're still at 0-0, then happy days. Let's try and get to 20 minutes at 0-0. And the game, if you do that right, then the game sort of like slowly passes by. And if you're still in touch getting into the second half, you begin to think, well, you never know. But
all it takes is a bounce of the ball, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does, yeah. We're under no illusions about how, certainly as a fan base, we're under no illusions about how difficult it was going to be. I was tempted to come on here and go, we're going to hammer you 4-0. But I think everyone would know that I didn't really mean it.
Yeah. How's it been? You talked about the scheduling. How's it been balancing the FA Cup with the Championship? Because just looking at your fixtures for the end of the season, there's a key game with Ipswich Town coming up as well, which could decide automatic promotion as well.
Yes, it could. Yeah.
Where's the balance for all of this? Because at the end of the day, this is an FA Cup semi-final. You get a good result, you're in the final. It's like that's
Absolutely.
so enticing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and I one of the things about Tonderecker is that he doesn't seem to get high about anything that's really good or low about anything that's really, really bad. He doesn't look games ahead. He may, if he's got a player with a knock, he might leave him out, sort of thing. But I think he probably knows, what he's going to put out against City. He seems to. It just seems to be sort of very meticulous and calm about everything, and I'm sure he'll pick a team against you guys that he thinks will be able to cause you problems. I mean, we played differently to how we normally play against Fulham. We played differently again against Arsenal, and in between all that, we had a game away at Coventry, and obviously they've got promoted now. They are the best team in the Championship by quite a long way, and he completely changed tactics for that Coventry game. And we beat them 2-1 at their ground. So there's lots of things he's doing that sort of like giving me confidence that we will cause you a few problems. But whether it be enough to get the result at the end of the day, I'd be surprised. I mean, some of our players have been. Taylor Harvell-Bellis, who of course used to play for you, he said, I don't think there's a team as good as us in the country at the moment. And whether he was just talking about the Championship or whether he was talking about everyone, I don't know. But there is a lot of confidence there at the moment with the players. And but I'm hoping they just go out and give a good account of themselves on Saturday. And if they do that, then yeah, you can't ask for any more really. If we play our best and get beat, then at least we've had a go. But
yeah.
But I'm sure we'll give you a much better game than we would have done 6 months ago, put it that way.
Yeah. Who's playing well at the minute? Who should City be wary of?
Well, obviously, there's a little bit of a caveat in that I don't fully know who's going to play, but one who certainly will is Leo Cienza, who plays sort of off the left wing mainly. He's our equivalent of your Ryan Cherky, basically. He takes people on. He appears in spaces you're not expecting him to appear in. He's not a Burnham down the outside kind of winger, though he can do that. He's just got a little bit about him. He was a hell of a pickup in the summer from German club Heidenheim. I don't know what we paid for him. It wasn't a significant amount, 6 million maybe. He's been the main sort of creative player this season in terms of certainly in terms of assists, and his presence on the pitch tends to, especially in the Championship, most teams try and double mark him, so that leaves space for other players. So he is certainly one to watch out for. Another one of your old boys seems to have the golden touch at the moment in front of goal in important games. It's Shea Charles, it was really a defensive midfielder when we first got him, but he's developing more into a number 8 type of player now, and he's just got this knack of scoring goals. Scored against Swansea, scored against Arsenal. He scored in a ridiculous game we had earlier on in the season, got the winning goal. We were 3-0 down against Leicester, come back and won 4-3, and he got the winning goal in that. So he's another one that's been popping up with a goal. But yeah, in terms of goal threat, it'd be interesting to see what we do with with the central striking role. We've got 2 to choose from. We've got Ross Stewart, who's 6'3", but he can head the ball, but he can also run. He's quite quick. Or if we want to go down the brute force approach, we've got this Canadian guy called Kyle Larin, who is just huge. He's just very, very strong. And
bit of a battering ram, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit more of a battering ram. So, I mean, we'll use them both during the game. It's just a question of which one starts. So they're the main sort of attacking threats that we've got.
Well, let's look at Saturday then. We got the charity bet on the show a bit later on. What's your score prediction? How do you think the game will go?
I think it'll be a game where we won't see the ball very much. I just think we would try and play on the break, which is what we did against Fulham and with Arsenal. With Arsenal, we identified that the fullbacks were weak, or relatively. So with Ben White on one side, Miles Lewis-Skelly on the other, so we tried to get at them quickly, either with long balls or with attacking with pace down the wings. Now, I'm not saying City's fullbacks are weak, and obviously I don't really know who's going to be playing, though I do notice that Pep has been largely keeping to the same outfield players the last few games. But obviously I know you've got a game on Tuesday, is it, or Wednesday? Yeah,
Wednesday, Burnley. This will go out after then, but so people will know how it's gone. But we're recording before it, but Wednesday night,
yeah. So whether he'll want to rotate a few for the semi-final, I don't really know. But I mean, assuming it's your normal back four, both of your fullbacks they want to get forward. They're attacking players, so there can be space behind them at times. So I think we'll target that. But yeah, so I think we'll cause you a few issues. It's just a case of if we get in those areas, can we finish off a chance? Can we play the right ball to create a chance in the middle? So I'd like to think that we'd manage to score, but if I had to predict it, I'd say 3-1 City.
This is the Blue Moon Podcast. Listen to it, drink it in.
That was Glen de la Cour from Total Saints. Now, we had one correct score on the show last week. That was Mike Maynes, 2-1 for the Arsenal game. He added 65 quid to the kitty for the season. William Hill is giving us 3 £10 correct score singles. The winnings are going to the Man City Fans Food Bank support group, and our total so far is now at £705. We are starting to get a little bit of respectability back into this season after having a dreadful first, 6 months or so. We've already heard from Glen. He's gone for a 3-1 City win. That's 9-1 and £90. We're taking the score at 90 minutes, by the way, so it has to be 3-1 at 90 minutes. Gaz, what are you having for this?
I think 2-0. I think they showed against Arsenal that they're not going to get completely turned over. So yeah, maybe 2-0 City.
2-0 City is 6-1 and 60 quid. Dan, over to you, mate.
I've gone for 3-0 City.
3-0 City's 13-2 and £65 if you are right. Remember, you've got to be 18 or over to gamble. Prices can change. And for information on responsible gambling, take a look at gambleaware.org. To finish this week, we'll take a quick listener question. Get in touch on Blue Sky at bluemoonpodcast.com. The email address is contact@bluemoonpodcast.com, and you can find us on Instagram to send us a message there as well. Just search for Blue Moon Podcast. Tam's been in touch on the emails to say, I really can't see how Gabriel didn't get sent off on Sunday. He definitely got away with one, as they say. So what are your favourite times that a City player has got away with one? And I'm not going to lie, fellas, my immediate reaction went to one name from the Kevin Keegan promotion season, and I don't know if either of you would guess from that when a City player got away with one.
Danny Tiato?
No, we're talking Christian Nagui punching the ball in against Rotherham.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So any good examples of City players getting away with one, Dan?
Well, the first one that jumped into my mind was Kompany against Liverpool in that pulsating 2-1 game from January 2019, when he definitely should have been sent off for that.
Do you think?
Shin high challenge on Salah, I think, right?
It was a side foot challenge. It wasn't studs.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm just
pretty raucous. And also Rodri at Everton. I think that was definitely handball, wasn't it?
I mean, well, this is the thing. Like, what I love about that is that there are City fans now online who will just go, well, it was offside. It was offside. Like that's why they didn't give a handball. It was offside. And yet the PGMOL actually apologised to Everton for not giving a handball in that instance, because they didn't check for offside. They checked for handball and didn't find a handball. If they'd found a handball, they would have then subsequently checked for offside. So they didn't even get to the offside.
They didn't look very hard, did they?
Yeah. Gaz, what about you? Any time City players have got away with one?
Ben Thatcher for the rest of that game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. That was that's possibly, no possibly about it. It is definitely the worst challenge I've ever been in the stadium to see. Yeah, utterly horrific.
I thought he died. That was my instant reaction. He's killed him.
He's unconscious before he hits the deck because his body sort of slides.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
God, I don't know if you ever go back and watch it again on YouTube. I mean, two things about it. The first one is the noise when it happens is sickening. Like, honestly, the thwack is horrid. But then I don't know who. I think the co-commentator was Paul Walsh, and he says something like, "That's not a great challenge." And then on second viewing, he goes, "Yeah, now I've seen it again. That's a bad one." It's like he totally undersells just how bad this challenge is. The fact that they had to change the laws of the game so that they could go back and give him a retrospective ban. It's horrific.
By the way, if we're talking retrospective, looking back at decisions like that, do you think Kusnov got away with one at the weekend for that one on Havertz? I thought he was a little bit lucky there.
It's one of those, it was coming together, but it was a coming together which really benefited him, wasn't it? You do see those. I think the fact that look, I reckon if it was the other way around, I'd probably be calling for it. Yeah, but it's one of those, is it, where he never. I think you get away with it when your opponent has never got the ball under control. The other one they're claiming for was ridiculous. The one in the second half where who was it who just sort of fell over? This is what happens, isn't it? When you have like marginal refereeing decisions, and there'll be like one bad one, and then people just flood the zone with everything.
and this one, yeah.
And they're all just like normal like decisions, etc. But yeah, I mean, you could definitely see a world where Kusnov could have gone for that.
It was. I think it was shoulder to shoulder. I think you're fine with that. When you see defenders letting the ball go out of play and what they get away with, like wrestling the forward, and then when the forward does it back, they fall over and get a free kick. I think when it's shoulder to shoulder, the ball's not under control. I think bash into each other, and if one of you gets down, then like you've just not been strong enough. Sorry.
I can live with that.
Yeah.
Hard man, David.
Well, I'm not. You've played with me, you know I'm not. I'm soft as shit. Yeah. Yeah. If we have missed any times where you think that City players have got away with one and you'd like to scream about it, let us know at bluemoonpodcast.com on Blue Sky. Email contact@bluemoonpodcast.com as well. And as I say, find us on Instagram. Just search Blue Moon Podcast there. That is it for today's episode. Thank you very much to my guests for this one. Dan Burke.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gaz.
Nice one, thank you.
There is a clip of this week's Nostalgia episode coming up shortly. Given that Bernardo Silva news this week, I got Andy McNabb and Richard Burns together to pick their top 10 Bernardo Silva goals. If you want to hear the full thing now, then just head on over to members.bluemoonpodcast.com. I'll be back next week, so I'll see you then.
That was the Blue Moon Podcast. Please give the show a rating and a review where you can. And don't forget, you can listen without the ads by signing up to our Patreon. You'll also get an extra episode each Monday. Here's a clip of this week's.
It's also in because it's the only one that I can claim direct credit for.
Go on then. I'm interested to see how this works, but you weren't on the pitch, so...
Well, listen, would you give Pep Guardiola credit for anything that happened in that season?
I think he deserves some credit. Yeah.
So what I'm going to say is Pep Guardiola wasn't the only bald person who instructed Bernardo Silva on that night, right? So the day before, my then fiance, now wife, and her sister had been to Yard and Coop in the Northern Quarter for lunch, and when we came out, I saw somebody who looked quite familiar. That's Bernardo Silva, and she encouraged me to go over and speak to him, and I thought, I can't do it. Like
that's not like you. Yeah.
No, I thought you don't do that for whatever reason. Went and asked him for a photo. As he walked off, even more embarrassingly, I shouted, "Do the business tomorrow night." And what did he do? He scored the winner in a crucial title game that City had to win. So, all I'm saying is he might not have thought of doing the business until I said it. Pep's on what, about 10 to 15 million a year for that kind of shtick?
And here you are giving it out for free.
Exactly.
You can listen to more of that at patreon.com/Blue Moon Podcast. And join us again next time for another episode.